Asia is largely an agricultural region, but one of the most pervasive issues it is facing is the landlessness of its farmers. Let's take a closer look on Nepal as an example. Nepal's agricultural sector is beset with challenges faced by farmers as they grapple with centuries-old problems of landlessness and disempowerment. A significant proportion of Nepali farmers lack secure land tenure. Landlessness perpetuates poverty and leaves families vulnerable, and the indigenous communities face particular challenges in asserting their land rights. Over time, land holdings have become increasingly fragmented due to inheritance practices. Hence, a majority of Nepali farmers operate small plots. But small plots make mechanization difficult and limit economies of scale. However, their resilience lies in sustainable practices, crop diversification, and community support. Farming is couched in a very feudal system. Tenant farmers use the land of landowners and pay them in return. A system of payment is agreed upon between the two parties, or on an amount dictated by the landowner. What could have been a simple and straightforward transaction becomes more complicated because of unlawful practices. Nepalese law dictates that tenant payment for land use should not exceed half of the total production. However, in the 2021 study, Tenants and Tenancy, State and Assessment, 43% of respondents shared that they paid half of their production. 42% paid 2/3, and the other 15% paid 3/5. This leaves the poor tenant farmer with little to fend for himself and the family. At the end of the day, tenant farmers have limited autonomy because they are landless. Nepal is a country highly dependent on its agricultural sector, which contributes about 1/3 to their GDP. Those engaged in agriculture constitute 66% of its 30 million population. But the distribution of agricultural land is largely uneven, as most small farmers operate only 18% of the total tenable land, with an average holding size of less than half a hectare. This fragmentation of land is higher in rural areas as compared to urban areas. While there are laws that are pushing for agrarian reform, such as the Land Act of 1964, that calls for land to be given to the poor and the landless, and even with the introduction of amendments to this law, the most recent of which was in 2020, calling for provision of land ownership to landless squatters and unmanaged dwellers, there are still millions of poor tenant farmers and lower caste Dalit laborers that have remained landless. The effectiveness of the law is currently close to non-existent. To illustrate, before 1997, there were 1,820,000 applications from tenants for their share of the land. Of these, only 1.5 million were recorded, and only 470,000 were given land certificates that provided tenants with ownership of half of the land they are tilling. At present, only 40,000 tenants now legally own the land they are tilling. So where does the problem lie? In Nepal, land rights face significant challenges due to a lengthy and complicated application process. Corruption, lack of assurance, and instances of intimidation and expulsion by landowners. While many believe that the current administration has largely addressed this issue, non-profit organizations involved in land rights claim that the problem is still pervasive. To them, and to the millions of Nepalese, landlessness is still a sad reality that drives those working in agriculture into the shackles of poverty.